I know that people have submitted questions in advance. What I've tried to do is cover them generally in the information that we'll be sharing today. We've got a huge amount of people on this webinar. It's proved to be really, really popular. So please just try and avoid using any information that is sort of child specific, because we've got a big audience. So if we can talk in more general terms, I think that will be best for everybody. We are going to be recording the webinar. We will share it afterwards. We're also going to pull out the questions that have been asked in advance, any questions that are asked today during the chat, and questions that people sort of put their hand up and ask, and we'll turn that into an FAQ document that we will circulate. So I'll get started. So I mentioned that I was going to do a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. I've already said, but I'll just say again for people who have only just joined, if you can keep yourselves on mute, please. By all means, do use the chat facility if you want to type messages over the course of the webinar. If we can't answer them during the webinar, we will add them to the FAQ document that we're circulating, like I've mentioned. When I finish going through the slides, please, if you want to ask a question, put your hand up, and we will try and get through as many questions as we can. And I think I've already mentioned, but I'll just say again that because we've got so many people on the webinar, if we can just avoid, please, sort of, referring to any children or using any information that's going to identify children. Okay, thanks, Laurie. If we go on the next slide. So very quickly, the school admissions team is here to help parents decide on and then provide them with a suitable place to learn. We think that is our job. That applies across all aspects of school admissions. So we do in-year applications. That's people who want to change schools in an academic year. We do transfer applications. So relevant to you today, we'll be transferring to secondary school, transferring to reception and junior. We do the 11+ exams, we do school appeals, we do free school meals. In terms of context, how many kids are coming through our system every year, we get about 25,000 applications and about 80,000 calls. So it is a really, really busy team. And what we're trying to do more of is sort of tune into the things that you really need to know as parents, so you can decide on what a suitable school place is, and sort of get that to you in advance of deadlines, so you're well prepared. Hopefully then that can take some of the stress out of offer days. Yeah. Did anybody, was that you, Laurie? No? Okay. So that's what the team does. And if we go into the next slide, please, Laurie. Thank you. So I'm just going to get straight into the detail now about the 11+ scores. So the exam results were released by us on Monday evening, Monday of this week, and we have pushed the exam results into the parent portal. So everybody should be able to log in to the parent portal and view their exam results. We've also sent out an email again on Monday evening, and attached that email with some information, much of which we will cover today. In terms of how the scores are calculated, fundamentally there are 3 test components: verbal reasoning in English, numerical reasoning, and non-verbal reasoning. What is produced is what we call the raw score. So for each of those 3 components, there will be a score. Those are then standardized, and they are weighted to give an overall score. So this sort of single score then is your 11+ exam result, and that's what has been shared in the portal. So for example, we've had some queries which are, I've had 3 scores of 100, 120 and 80. Why doesn't my total score add up to 300? And it is because those raw scores are taken, they're standardized, they're weighted, children's ages are taken into account, they're all adjusted, and then you get the single 11 plus score that you've been shared, that's been shared with you. We've had a lot of questions recently and sort of going back over the last sort of six to 12 months, which is how will the scores this year be comparable with scores in previous years, because we have had an change in exam provider. So we've moved from Chem to GLA assessment. GLA assessment have delivered the exams today, not today, sorry, this year, and we spent quite a lot of time with them through the sort of commissioning of the contract process to ensure that they absolutely could be sort of standardized to reflect the same, so they're reflective of what's happened in previous years, and certainly we can see from the range that there is this year that it is comparable with previous years. You're always going to get slight adjustments because of how individual cohorts perform, but there is nothing about the change in exam provider that has given us any reason to sort of think that they're anything other than comparable. So I thought it'd be helpful to clear that up. In terms of sort of other information, if we go on to the next slide, please, Laurie, that will be helpful in you in sort of interpreting your score. The total sort of 11 plus score that you have will be used to allocate places at the grammar schools. It's always done in line with the school's oversubscription criteria. So each school will have their own oversubscription criteria, and it will be available on their website. What this means is, in instances where we get more applications than there are places, which is always the case with our grammar schools, we allocate the places based on the criteria in that oversubscription document. So really important that you look at that and sort of understand that. And there's an example here, which is children who have achieved the required academic standards, so the qualifying score through the 11 plus tests, and live in the priority circle for a grammar school will be given a higher priority than somebody who lives outside of the priority area, and that is what is said in the oversubscription criteria. So definitely recommend you go and have a look at that for the schools that you are interested in. It's also worth knowing that the total number of places available across all of the selective schools in Warwickshire is 658 for the 2023 entry. To give you an idea of how many people sat the exam, it was about 2,500. So 658 places available. We publish some information every year which is relevant and helps you interpret your score, and that is all results ranked from highest to lowest, and it shows you all the scores that have been achieved in the 2023 exam, so the exam that's just been taken, and you can go through that, and the only other sort of factor that's highlighted in there is whether it's the tester was male or female. We think that that's helpful because you can see where your child's score is in that long list of circa 2,500 results, and therefore how they rank compared to their peers, and also compared to the number of grammar school places available. So if you rank number 3, very high up for 658 places, then you could be reasonably confident that you would probably get a place. I would still refer to the oversubscription criteria. If you are ranked in a 1,500, it's going to be far less likely that you would sort of achieve the qualifying score for that group. Okay, if we can go on to the next slide, please, please, Laurie. Thanks. something that a lot of people ask is when the 2023 qualifying score is going to be available, and it's not published until National Offer Day on the 1st of March 2023, and how that score is set is determined by a committee, which we administer as the local authority, and I believe the grammar school heads are part of. Um, it's also important to note that the qualifying score alone doesn't guarantee your child a place at preferred school. So I know it's probably frustrating not knowing what that is at the time of application, but even if your child did achieve the qualifying score, it doesn't guarantee that they will get a place. Other factors that I've started to touch on are things like whether you live in the priority area, whether you applied on time, whether you're in receipt of free school meals, for example. If there is anybody who is in receipt of free school meals, again, it's worth checking the admissions criteria of the grammar schools that you are interested in, because they will set out in their admissions criteria whether they make any adjustments for pupils in receipt of free school meal premium, and how they make that adjustment. So your score is your score. We don't change your score, but the individual schools might have a different approach to free school meals. So we would suggest you look again at the admissions criteria for the schools that you are interested in. Okay, if we can go on the next slide, please, Laurie. Thank you. In terms of applying for a school place, a lot of people, understandably, whose children have gone through the 11 plus process, wait for the exam scores before applying for a school place. So it's just a reminder that if you've done that the deadline for applying is 11:59 p.m. on the 31st of October 22. Really important, whether you go for a grammar school place or not, that you get your application in on time. If you don't get your application in on time, it won't be processed until after National Offer Day, and then you will get whatever school places are left. So really important that you get your application in on time. At Warwickshire, we allow parents to make up to 6 preferences on their application form. And again, regardless of whether you apply for a grammar school, we suggest that you list at least 3 secondary schools, and that one of those is your catchment secondary school, because usually that is the school that you have the best chance of securing a place at. If you're not a Warwickshire resident, but you want to apply for a Warwickshire school, that's fine. You can do that. You need to do that though through your home authority, and that is your whatever county council you belong to, or whatever other authority. So if you live in Oxford, it will be Oxfordshire. If you live in Birmingham, it will be Birmingham City Council, for example, or Coventry City Council. I've already said, but I'll make the point again. Please read the admissions criteria for the schools that you're thinking of applying for. Again, whether it's a grammar school or not, it will tell you how places are allocated, particularly where there is more demand for places than there is places. So that's really important. I think also, as a general tip, we would always say just speak to your child's teacher and get a sense of what your child is like in school, because we know that as parents might have certain ideas about what might be right. It's really helpful to test that against what the teachers think might be a good fit for them. So we would always suggest that you speak to your child's teacher. The other thing as well is you might want to change your preferences if you've already submitted your application form, particularly if you submitted it before you got the 11 plus score through. If you want to change your preferences, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. You won't be able to do it in the parent portal when you've already submitted your preferences. So there is a link here to a Microsoft form, and so long you get that form into us detailing what changes you want to make by the 31st of October, we can make those changes for you. The slides will be shared as well, so you'll have access to the Microsoft form through the slides when we share them. Okay, on to the next slide, please, Laurie. Okay, thank you. When you submit your application in the parent portal, you will receive an automated response. So we always just suggest that you keep that for future reference. We will always give the highest possible preference that we can on an application form, and if we can only give you the third preference, your child will automatically be added onto the waiting list for any higher up preferences that they didn't secure a place at, with the exception of grammar schools. So only applicants whose 11 plus score meets the minimum standard to be placed on the waiting list will then be put onto a waiting list for a grammar school. So if, for example, you put two grammar schools as preference 1 and 2, and you put your secondary catchment school as third preference, if we offer you the third preference school, then you will only be added on the waiting list for the 2 grammar schools if you have achieved the score for their waiting list, and that does get published and has certainly been published for previous years as well. So you'll get an idea of where the waiting list score is compared to the initial qualifying score. You can also amend school preferences on your child's application form after offer day if you wish. And we have the big offer day on the 1st of March, and then we start to do re-offers usually from middle of March onwards. So if you were not happy with what you get on the 1st of March, you might want to go and have another think, maybe change your preferences around, and then see how you fare in any subsequent reallocations that we do. Okay, next slide, please, Laurie. Thank you. So there's various sort of information documents and resources available. They're all listed on here. There's information on our website. We've put together a guide for parents as well. Some of this is more relevant to general secondary school applications. We've also put a video together, and there's a request for help form there as well. So if you're just not sure, our phones are busy and our inboxes are busy, and if you can't always get through on them, then you can fill in this form, and we're working through them and calling people back. So it's helpful to know that those exist. Amy, before I go on, Amy, to the Q&As, is there anything that I've missed in what we've covered?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of questions that have been duplicated, so that will cover. We will get more covered in more detail when we answer those.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you, Amy. In terms of people with their hands up, I can see that there's quite a lot. So I think I'm going to go straight into the questions that people want to sort of ask in here. And as I say, if you've asked something in advance or you've put something in the chat and it's not covered off, don't worry, it's all going into an FAQ document, and it will be shared. It will be shared pretty quickly, and certainly before deadline on the 31st. Okay, so I'm just gonna start going through the hands up, and I think it's Rathika Bhatt. If you still want to ask a question, can you come off mute, please?
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
I just wanted to find out, so if our first choice school is outside the catchment area and our child has a high score, well above the qualifying score for that school, what are the chances of getting into that school if we are outside the area?
Okay, thank you. Amy's going to pick up these questions for me.
So the answer is we don't know. We can't tell you what the qualifying score will be. We can't tell you how many offers will be made in each category. We don't know because we don't know how many applications we're going to get for each school yet.
Is there any way of knowing with the ranking as to whether we can put it as first choice? Because we don't want to miss out on the catchment area school either. So we just want to make sure that we are putting the right choices in the right preference, order.
So with the rankings, a lot of emphasis is put on the rankings, and I'm not always sure why. because again, you don't know what schools people are applying for. So it's actually, unless you're within the top 658, which is the number of grammar school places we have available, they actually don't mean very much. What will mean more is the data that we've supplied concerning the academic standards that have been set in previous years. That's going to be more reliable. I would say if your child has scored within that sort of range, so that looking at the schools that you want to apply for and their academic standards in previous years, by all means put that score on your application. If you then want to put your catchment score or NEBIS score on your application, that's absolutely fine as well. You will not be penalised for putting a school lower down on your application. You don't have to you can't put all the schools first, and those rankings are not used to allocate school places in terms of prioritising applications. The only reason that we use the ranking, so where you've named your schools on your application, is if we can offer your child a place at more than one of the schools that you've named, then in that case, we'll offer them a place at the highest ranked school that you've named. That's the only reason that we use your order of preferences. They're all treated exactly the same as if you put them all first.
That's great. Thanks very much. Very clear. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for your questions. So next is Alex Bernard. Hi.
Hello.
Are you there, Alex?
Perfect. I don't know if I'm. Yeah, can you hear me?
We can now. Yep. Hi.
Perfect. So I don't know if I'm being a bit dense with this, but if, for instance, the AQS is 230 and your child scores 231 and lives 1 mile away from the school, but another child scores 232 but lives 10 miles away from the school, all within the same priority circle, and there's only one place left, would the child that lives closest get the place, or would the child with the highest score get it, even though they've both got above the AQS?
So in that case, the child with the highest score would get offered the place. When we allocate places, we do so according to the oversubscription criteria that each school has set individually, and it will be slightly different for each of our grammar schools. So we advise that you have a look at each school's website that you're interested in applying for, have a look at their admission arrangements for the 2023 entry year, have a look at their oversubscription criteria, because that will tell you how they will prioritise applications. In all cases, within each category, score will be considered first, and then distance and catchment to the priority circle. That's not quite right. So it's slightly different with each school. Priority circle does come into it, but within each category, higher scores get higher priority.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if you are on the doorstep of the school.
Not if you've got a lower score than what they're going to offer.
Okay.
It's something that's really hard for us to give precise answers on, because there's different schools, there's different arrangements, and then you've got all the scores thrown in, which you know, and the qualifying score can obviously vary. So yeah, just bear with us if we can't give you the precise answer that you're wanting.
The other thing to bear in mind is that there is the possibility that even if your child gets the AQS, you're in the priority circle, and everyone else is getting an offer on that score, that your child might miss out because there just aren't enough places to offer everybody. So the advice is name the school, otherwise the child won't get considered at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your question. If you're joining, can you just make sure you're on mute, please? And next person with a hand up is a C. Forbert. Are you there?
Yes,
Paul? Yep,
hello.
great. Hi.
Hi. So our son goes to Aylesford, which is an all-through school. We're not very clear. So my understanding is we don't have to apply. We don't have to apply for a place in year 7 there because he already attends the school. So that's separate from the application process. Is that right, Amy?
That's right, yep. So we'll hold 30 places, or however many children are currently in the year 6 cohort at Aylesford. We'll hold that many places off their total number of places available for next year's year 7.
So, and that applies even if we apply to grammar school and either don't get an offer or we get an offer and choose not to take it, that place is safe in year 7.
Yeah, that place is safe. If we can offer, so you still need to apply for the grammar schools and any other secondary schools that you might be interested in.
Yeah.
If we can offer the grammar, but you don't want, if we can't offer the grammar and you don't, and use at Aylesford, all well and good. If we offer you the grammar and you don't want it, that's no skin off your nose. We'll just reoffer that grammar place to somebody else. If you are offered the grammar and you take it up, that's just another place at Aylesford that we'll add on and offer to them.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Okay. Hardong, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, hello. My question regarding the particular Ashlon school. So Ashlon, you can get to the school via the Google Share 11 Plus test or the other language test. I can't remember what the name is. So in the application, does it really matter? Do we put one entry for Ashlon only, and then hopefully that the school got 2 record of the test result?
Yeah, so the way it works with Ashlawn, you name the school just once, and depending on which tests your child has sat, if any, we will allocate them the highest criteria that we can. And if we can make an offer on that criteria, we will do. If we can't, we'll then change their criteria to the next highest that we can. We can make them an offer, we will do. If not, we'll then give them ordinary criteria. So with Ashlawn, their oversubscription is category 1 is all the looked after children, so everyone has to give them highest priority. Category 2 and all subcategories of category 2 apply to children that have sat the 11 plus and achieved the required academic standard. Category 3 is children that have met the standard for their MFL aptitude testing. Category 4 is those in the priority area, and so on. So if your child sat the 11 plus test and you name Ashlawn, if they've met the academic standard, we'll give them one of the categories in category 2. If we can make them an offer, we will do based on that category. If we can't make them an offer, say they've set the MFL, we'll then look at them as a category 3 applicant. If we can't offer, we'll move down the list of oversubscription. If you're in area for Ashlawn, you'll get one of the category 4 criteria. We'll see if we can offer them in that category. That makes sense. So you just name Ashlawn once and you just leave the rest to us.
Yeah, thank you. And the other question, I think is probably very important for the rest of everyone here. Is the average score of everybody at the populations, is that similar to last year?
The average score for everybody, I don't know, is the answer. It's normally around 200.
I think there was some information in the letter that indicated that, Amy, as well.
It's normally around 200. I haven't seen the standardisation calculation, so I couldn't say for certain, but it's normally around 200. What I would say, average score doesn't equate to grammar school place.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned that there will be a data regarding people who took the test, and it will be available somewhere on the website.
Yes, tomorrow.
Is that possible to have that link in the email after the call, please?
When we circulate the Q&A document, that won't be circulated for a couple of days. So when that's circulated, I'll include the link for the ranking document.
Yeah, thank you.
Amy, will it go in the standard place on the website? Because I'm just thinking I could put the link to that in the chat.
Yeah, so it'll go on in the documents section in the grammar schools
Yeah, okay.
subsection.
I'll find that. Okay, I'll find that and I'll put it in the chat so people can see. Okay, thank you for that question. So next one is Gaminda Kalzi. If you still want to ask a question, could you come off mute, please?
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the waiting list situation. So my daughter is likely to be put on the waiting list for Rugby High. And I was just wondering how likely or how often in the past have you allocated spaces on the waiting list? When are we kind of likely to find out? Because I'm assuming then she would be offered her kind of second preference, and then once all the places have been allocated, you'd go back to waiting list. And also, would you give a preference on the waiting list depending on how far you live?
Okay, so I'll take that first one, that last question first. The waiting list is ordered the same way that we order applicants. So it's based on the oversubscription criteria of the grammar schools. We will start making any reoffers that we can from the waiting lists towards the end of March. The first question you had about how many offers are normally made, it varies so much year on year. Some years we've made 20 reoffers for Rugby High. There was one year that we didn't make any. There was one year that we ran out of people to offer to on the waiting list. It varies so much, it's just not something we can quantify.
Do you know by any chance, or could I email in to ask what the lowest score was on the waiting list that you offered?
That we offered, I can tell you. Just bear with me a sec. And just bear in mind while I'm doing this, the waiting lists for the current year 7 cohort are still open. So we maintain those lists until the end of December. And we are making reoffers, not necessarily for Rugby High, but if vacancies do come up, we are still making offers from those waiting lists. So the lowest score offered so far was $213,213.
Oh, but the qualifying score I thought was 211.
Yeah, all their offers, their re-offers on the waiting list have gone to, apart from those in the pupil premium category, preschool meals, and I can't tell you that because it's child specific. All the others have been late applicants who were higher criteria. So they've got higher scores than the qualifying score, but they applied late. So they've gone straight to the top of the waiting list.
So nobody less than the qualifying score got in last year. Right. Okay. All right.
Not so far, no.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that question. So we've got is it Lorena Nessie or Lorena?
Hello, it's Luke as well here actually.
Okay, hi, sorry.
On the call. Hi. I just wanted to ask, my understanding of the AQS is that it generally goes up or down depending on demand. And so if there are a lot fewer applicants this year, as it appears there are about 800 fewer applicants this year overall, does that not suggest that the AQS will be on average lower for the schools as well, because they'll all have less demand than last year?
Yeah, so it is about demand. It's also about ability of the cohort. So again, it's a question that's really difficult to answer because we just don't know yet. We don't know how many applications we're going to get.
But it'll still average around 200 because it's standardized to 200.
Yes. So average score doesn't equate to grammar school offer, though, is the important thing to note there.
But it'll be a percentage above that average, won't it? The AQS for each school.
It'll definitely
be relative to demand.
It'll definitely be above the average, I'm guessing. But yeah, absolutely, you're right. It'll be due to demand. The other thing that we need to bear in mind in Warwickshire is we're surrounded by 9 other local authorities. We are a big importer of children from other local authorities attending Warwickshire schools, and we have less children going out of Warwickshire to surrounding county schools.
Was
So
the
it's
number
not just
you gave of total applicants this year 2,500? Did that include the children from out of county?
so it's not 2,500 applicants. It was 2,500 children that registered to sit the test. They haven't.
That's
we
what I
don't know
meant,
if they've
sorry.
applied yet.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just
so
mean that being much lower than last year would
it's
probably
not
mean-
lower. It's not lower. So
Oh.
we've had about 2,500-ish registered. 2,200-ish ended up sitting the test.
Mhm.
Those are children that sat the test through us. We administered the process for them. What we haven't done this year yet is added the number of children that sat the test in Birmingham,
Oh,
but
I
have
see.
opted to share their results with us. That's where the
Okay.
800 figure, that discrepancy, if you like, comes from. I expect
I
it to be a
see.
lot more than 800.
Do you know what it was last year for Warwickshire?
It would have been about the same, 2,200
About the same.
on time. Yeah, and then we normally get about 150 late.
And we don't know what it is for Birmingham this year.
Not
yet.
for the sharers, no, not yet. We haven't exchanged that data with them yet.
Okay, thanks. I just figured that's the only way to try to gauge what the AQS might do, because it's going to be relative to total demand. I know it will vary by the school as well, so it's not a perfect science, but
I mean, it's hard to gauge. We've provided some very, very basic data for people to kind of compare from the last couple of entry years, but no one's guaranteed anything at the moment. What I'd say is if you're a Warwickshire resident, you can put a maximum of 6 schools on your application, use all 6. Like I said earlier, you're not penalising yourself by ranking a school as number 6 compared to number 1. Use all the choices that you've got available to you.
do you know if the rankings that goes out tomorrow will include the Birmingham?
No, they
score?
won't, because we haven't exchanged that data yet.
And it will that go up later somewhere for the Birmingham?
I'm not
Okay.
planning to do that because, to be honest, we don't normally get that many applicants from Birmingham.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your questions. I'm going to move us on now.
Thank you.
So next one is Priyanka. Hi.
Hi. I just want to know, since I ticked the option of sharing my son's score with Birmingham, has it been shared? And if not, when could it be shared?
So did you say your child sat the test in Birmingham?
Yes, he gave the test in Warwickshire, but we ticked the option of his score being shared with Birmingham. So just wanted to know if it has been shared or not, and if not, when.
It hasn't been shared yet, but it'll be shared in the next couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks. So because it has to be before 31st of October, since we have to fill the form and decide the preference, and we.
Oh, she's gone.
Yeah, we've lost her. Priyanka, can you hear us? Because we can't hear you at the moment. No, okay. I'll go on to the next question. Priyanka, if you can hear us. Oh, hi.
Oh,
Priyanka,
hi, sorry.
That's okay. We lost you. We didn't hear anything beyond you querying when the results would be shared with Birmingham, what that meant for the deadline of the 31st of October to apply.
Yeah, because we want a confirmation that Birmingham has received the score of our child, since most of our preferences will be from Birmingham. So if we don't receive a confirmation before 31st of October, it would be difficult for us to put Birmingham schools in our preference.
Why would it be difficult?
Because we don't know if they have got that result or not.
But they don't need to know that result for you to be able to apply.
Okay, so whatever
you can
result
apply.
we have got from Warwickshire, that's enough for us
to
apply. Okay.
Yes, if your child sat the test and you've consented to share, absolutely you can apply.
Right, and the same score would apply there as well?
Yes.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for your question. I'm sure there's other people in the same situation, so I'm sure that would have been helpful. Okay, Dorothy, please.
Me, Rebecca.
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Amy. I have a technical problem. When I fill the application form online, I choose the preferences and then I saved and left. And after 1 or 2 days, I try to go back and to change, edit my preference. I can't continue to submit my application form. So what should I do?
Yeah, so I can answer this one, Amy. So I'll let you breathe for a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, so fundamentally, when you put applications into the parent portal and then we import them into our system. We're doing that regularly at the moment, and once we've done that, it's frustrating. I expect for you as parents, it's frustrating for us too. You can't then go and change your preferences in the portal.
Yes.
However, if you let us know, then we will make those changes for you. So my colleague Laurie will be listening to this. Laurie, if you could just share that Microsoft form, please, in the chat. Then that's the best way to sort of just get in contact with us. Tell us how you want us to make the preference changes. We'll do it for you, but please just make sure you get that form into us by the 31st of October, because that is the national deadline, and any preference requests after that have to be considered as a late application. So the key date is still relevant, 31st of October.
So I have to submit my application form first, and then afterwards I have to fill the form you supplied and give the correct preferences.
So you've already submitted your application form,
No,
is that right?
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh, okay. So you haven't submitted your application form, but you went
Because
in...
I can't change the preferences. So I want to know the solution before I submit my application form.
I'm not.
My problem is I have the preferences, and when I try to edit my preferences, they just stop me to continue to submit my application form. But if I choose to keep the same the prior preferences, I can submit my application form. But what preferences are not my final decision. So this is my problem.
I would recommend submit what you've done and then fill in the Microsoft form that Rebecca referred to with how you want the finished application to look.
I called your colleague this morning, and he told me he can help me to change my final preferences over the form in the system. But what my filling the form, what I done in the form in the parent portal, they cannot change it. So they can only change in the system, but not in the parent portal. So I just worried if during the allocation, because my parent portal's information is quite different from the system.
Okay.
Will they make any mistakes or mess for you to allocation the schools?
Okay, I mean, I think the key thing is that you get it in writing from us that we've made those changes for you, and you keep on to our confirmation in writing. So I think, as Amy said, to sort of the advice you had on the phone is correct. You know, we can do it over the phone as well, but I appreciate the point you're making, that you're worried because you won't see it reflected in your portal account.
Yes.
So I think if you fill in the form, we'll make sure that we contact you, and the key thing will be to get it confirmed in writing by us and hold on to that. Okay.
Yes. So how to make sure I can get the contact from you, because my preferences, I need to send an email to you or any other thing, and any other things I need to do to make sure I have the response from you.
Okay.
To correct my preferences.
Yeah, I understand. So I'll answer this, and then I'm going to move on to the next the next person who's got their hand up. But
Okay.
if you fill in the form that's been shared in the chat to this webinar, we'll get that. We'll then change the preferences for you, and we will send you written confirmation before the 31st of October that we have done that. And then if you hold on to that, that's what will show that it's happened for you. Okay, so it's a frustration that we have our end with the portal as well. There are unfortunately some limitations to it, but so long you've got something confirmed back in writing to us, in writing from us, sorry, then that's the confirmation you need. Okay. Thank you for your question. I'm going to go on to the next person, which is Divya. Yeah.
Sorry, just
Hi,
before,
this is Somen.
Divya, just before you come in, can I ask that anyone with their hand up puts their question in the chat as well, just because we are running short on time, so we won't get to everyone with their hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie, and thank you, Divya. I think you're ready to come in.
This is Somen, my wife's contact details. I have exactly same problem as Dorothy. So
Okay.
it's not letting me change the preferences. I have shared the screenshot with you as well, saying that the error which appears says an error has occurred and we have been unable to save your details. Please click here to try continuing application. I have done at least 20 times. It doesn't change.
Yeah,
It doesn't
okay.
let me change my preferences.
Okay.
So I got the answer through Dorothy, what you said, but I'm just sharing that this is a common problem. This is not just her. My question is, I live in Coventry. So I wanted to know when I apply for secondary school allocation from Coventry, because that's my county council. So when I apply through them, do I still choose the schools I want in South Warwickshire, or do I choose the schools I want in Coventry then, and then fill a separate form for South Warwickshire?
No, so you submit one application form, that will be to Coventry because that's where you live. You include the schools that you want that are in Warwickshire, and we all the councils share data in advance of offer day.
So if I fill that different preferences in Coventry and South Warwickshire, this will confuse you, is it?
You don't apply for two. You make one application through your home authority. That's who you pay your council
So I'm
tax
only allowed 3 preferences there. You allow 6. So I'm at a disadvantage then.
That's Coventry's rules.
All right.
They can offer you 6 if they wanted to. Legally, they have to offer a minimum of 3. In Warwickshire, we're just a lot nicer.
No, I do understand. But if I want to keep a secondary school in Coventry as a backup, and my daughter has scored 227, so I do want to apply for grammar schools here as well. So I only get a choice of 2 grammar schools and 1 secondary school in Coventry, which is unfair.
That's something you'd need to take up with Coventry.
With Coventry, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I can't fill South Warwickshire form. I shouldn't be filling that then.
No, it's for your home authority, which is Coventry.
So you're 100% about it. And if I don't fill, I don't lag behind. Like you don't say that you haven't filled a form. So I have to fill through one county council, which is Coventry County Council.
Whoever you pay your council tax to is who you need to make the application through.
I got it. Second thing was quickly asking, well, the priority area thing, that you have shared on your website, there are 2 eastern and southern circles. In southern circle, there are 2 circles, inner and outer. What is that for? Is that just for King Edwards, or that's for
just for King Edwards?
And if I'm in southern priority area, not the crossover area, then I'm technically out of priority area for rugby schools, isn't it?
Yes.
So I'll be treated same as.
You can still apply.
No, but I'll be treated same as somebody's applying from Birmingham then, isn't it?
Yes, they're out of area too.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question, and also for sort of confirming about the IT glitch that's going on. So we'll pick that up with our synergy team and see if there's a common error going on there. Thank you for raising that.
Thank you.
Okay, Rick Dillon, please. Rick, you're on mute. Hi. You've come off mute, Rick, but we can't hear you. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I'm gonna go on to the next person. You've come off mute, can we hear you?
Yeah, hello, it's Rick
Hi.
here, sorry.
That's okay.
So just a quick question. If we sat the test in Birmingham, and the results are shared to Warwickshire, will we get a separate communication from Warwickshire?
You will do, but we not necessarily before the 31st deadline. I don't know when I'm going to get round to doing that.
Okay, but the scores will be the same. So
yes.
Whatever the score is in Birmingham will be the same as a score for Warwickshire.
Yeah, so the meetings we've had with Birmingham all indicate the scores will be the same.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your question. Okay, Sajida. Are you there, Sajida?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can now.
Right. Okay, great.
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, so we only received our result today, and we spoke to admissions, and there was some specific issues which I won't voice on here, but we've emailed in. We've not had a reply, and we had some concerns, and we wanted to really discuss them. Unfortunately, getting through to admissions is quite difficult. So I wonder what the best way is to discuss specific concerns.
Yeah, but I'm sorry you've not had a good experience getting through on the phones. They are really busy. I'm not sure what's happened. Presumably, when you rang up, you were able to get the results.
No, we weren't given the result. We were told. I don't think it's the appropriate place to actually discuss, because we were told specific things.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it probably better to discuss in person. We have emailed in yesterday that concerns about not having had the result, and then today we were sent through a result. But obviously we've still got some concerns, and obviously speaking to the admissions team, they sometimes don't have the answers. They always try to contact the 11+ team, but I think it'd be nice to actually perhaps go through some things and discuss it in person, if that's possible.
Yeah.
And I understand you're all very busy, but that would be most appreciated. The other thing was, how does these scores stand for candidates who are pupil premium applicants, or whether the child has an EHCP plan, whether that has any bearing on the score?
Okay, so if I pick up the first bit, and then Amy, can you pick up the pupil premium and the EHCP? So I'm sorry you've had difficulties getting through to us. You said you've emailed in. Which email address did you use? Was it the 11+?
I know the email.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because Amy, if you could let me know, and then between Amy and myself, we'll give you a call tomorrow. Okay.
That's great.
And then Amy, do you want to pick up the free school meal and pupil premium and EHCP side, please?
Yeah, so EHCP is a little bit different. So if your child's got an education, health and care plan, any secondary school offer they get will come through SENDA, through their plan coordinator. And that would be the same wherever you live, if there's people who've got the same situation that aren't in Warwickshire. To have a grammar school named on your child's education, health and care plan, they still have to meet the required academic standard. If the child's got an EHCP and is in receipt of pupil premium free school meals, then most of our grammar schools, but not all, do use some discretion in terms of the minimum threshold score that those children will need to achieve. It's best to look at the admission arrangements for the schools you're thinking of applying for, to see what their threshold is. For example, those children may still be eligible for a place if they score, say, up to 10 marks below what would be the normal qualifying score.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. So we hope to hear from you soon, if that's possible. But specifically, you mentioned the EHCP thing. The child is not a current Warwickshire student, so they're based in a different county. Would that be done through their own school then?
It will be done through the council.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
and with regards to pupil premium applicants, does the AQS change at all? Is that the same?
No, the qualifying score doesn't change, but they will be allowed to score up to a certain amount of marks below the qualifying score and still be considered to be of that standard.
And how would one know that?
So the schools that you're interested in applying for, have a look on their website for their 2023 entry admission arrangements. That will contain their oversubscription criteria, and in there will explain how many places they offer to pupil premium and how many marks below they will still consider them to be of ability.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, thank you. We'll get back to you tomorrow. I think I've seen the email as well, Amy, and I'm sorry for any frustrations you've had there. I think we've got time for just one more question. I'm just trying to see who's at the top of the list. Can we have is it Madavi? Are you still there, Madavi? If you can just come off mute, please, and ask your question. And just to reiterate Laurie's point, if there's anybody here, well, there are. I'm sorry, we haven't got through all the questions. If you put the questions in the chat, and we will put them in the FAQ document. Yeah, Madavi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, we can. Thank you.
Hi. My question is: we live in Leicester at the moment, and my son's got scored 226 from his Warwickshire 11+ school, and we're planning to relocate in either in March or April time next year. So what is the chances for get the admission in a grammar school? Because we're planning to get the admission. First priority is the Lawrence Grammar School, and the second thing is, do we need to provide the proof of address beforehand, and when should we have to move in?
Okay, so if you live in Leicestershire, you will need to submit your child's secondary school application through Leicestershire.
Yeah.
You can name Warwickshire Grammar Schools or Warwickshire Mainstream Secondary Schools on that application.
Yeah.
And then we will exchange data and with those other authorities throughout the process. There's nothing more that you would need to do to let us know you've applied for one of our schools.
What are the chances to get the admission though? Because we don't miss out.
It's just not a question that we're able to answer. We just don't have the data available to do that analysis at the moment. And even if we did, we wouldn't release that until after the 1st of March anyway.
Okay. So for example, if I change my address in after I complete my application, would you consider the nearest catchment area or not?
So our grammar schools have their own rules about moving into Warwickshire.
Yeah.
You and the child who the application is being made for have to be living in the new property by the 31st of December this year.
Yeah.
And you have to have provided Warwickshire Admission Service with sufficient documentation confirming that move. That documentation that we would require is either a copy of the completion letter from your solicitor if you purchased the property, or a copy of all pages signed and dated of a tenancy agreement that must start on or before the 31st of December 2022, and it should end after the 5th of September 2023.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for clarification.
Okay, thank you for the question, and I think that's helpful because there will be other people who are moving house as well. And just to reiterate that you will need to sort of give us proof of being in your new address by the 31st of December. So 2 months after the
add on there,
national deadline. Yep.
So even if you're not moving house, part of the arrangements, this is for everybody. So part of the arrangements that our grammar schools have put in place, and this is their arrangements, not ours, we just do it on their behalf. At the beginning of December, you will receive correspondence from Warwickshire Admissions, regardless of where you live, asking you to supply documentation in support of your application for at least one of our grammar schools. So if you end up applying for a Warwickshire Grammar School, regardless of where you live, you should expect it's probably going to be an email from us beginning of December. If you don't get that email by the middle of December, you need to contact us as a matter of urgency. We need documentation from you. We'll tell you at the time what that will need to be, and that needs to be received by Warwickshire Admissions by the 31st of December. If you don't comply with that requirement, then your application for those Warwickshire Grammar Schools will be late and won't be processed any further until after the 1st of March after day.
Thank you, Amy, because we do see people slip up there, don't we? And sort of miss the email or not realise that they needed to do it because they've already provided a proof of address. So it's the requirement of the grammar schools to provide a secondary one. As Amy said, there'll be an email that comes out. Amy, I think we need to look at what we get on the website and whether we do some text message alerts and other things like that as well, just to remind everyone. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really sorry that we haven't been able to get through all of the questions today. As I said, the Q&A document will be updated. We'll get that out to you. The webinar recording will be shared, as will the slides from today as well. So I hope you found it helpful. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.